But we don't need to do bends, we do other stuff.
Sure. Thank you very much. And that was live on air, by the way. It's 14 minutes after 7. This is the AM show. You're welcome to my banner, and I'm personalizing this one. It's also become a passionate project. So burns are a major public health problem globally. Fire-related burns alone account for more than 300,000 deaths per year, with more deaths occurring in developing countries. So for every person who dies from burns, many more are left with lifelong disabilities. These in turn have further consequences, including stigma, rejection, and economic loss. And I think when I was reading about this subject yesterday, one of the fears in our country has been stigmatization, and I didn't even think about that. So today we want to spend time on education, but also there's a gentleman who's daring to make a move. We'll see how that goes. He's right here. We share a story with us. He wants to run a distance of 200 kilometers from Aflao to Accra, but it's all for a good cause. He will tell us. My guest, Dr. Opoku Wariampoma, is director of the burns unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and Kwame Anani Crane is a volunteer social change activist. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Are you sure you want to do this, Kwame?
I think every day as it gets closer, I get more nervous. But I really want to do this.
Yeah?
Because if I compare everything that I intend to do with what Doctor and his team have been doing for years, you can't compare it. You know, and it's an amazing personality for me. I'm really pleased he's here together with me on the show. I just want to contribute to what they do.
Sure. Dr. Opoku Wariampoma, how is your unit doing?
I'll say we are doing okay in the circumstances, but we could do much more, given the necessary resources, logistics, and manpower. We could do a lot more.
I think towards last year, we were told that the new units had still not been open.
Yes.
What's the how is it now? Is it open?
Well, thanks to some of the support you gave to us by way of publicity, we had one major sponsor, that's the Ghana National Petroleum Company, coming in with a major donation of $1 million towards the completion of this unit. And as you know, this is because it's a public facility. It has to go through the necessary procurement processes, tender, etc. So, in fact, the Central Tender Board just gave the approval just last week. So the contract is due to be awarded so that work can start immediately. So we are hoping that once work starts by the third quarter of this year, it should be completed. Okay, so we're showing some images on the screen. This is the units that you currently use. Yes. Tell us about it. Well, this unit is about a 70-bedded unit, which is divided into 3 wings. We have the main generic plastic surgery wing, and then we have the burns wing, which has 3 wards, one for male, one for female, and another for children. So it has a total of about 18, so that we squeeze in 20 beds. As you can see there, it's quite crowded in there. This is not the ideal environment to treat burns patients, because, you know, burns patients have got high risk of infection, so we need to have wider spacing and etc. The whole environment is not ideal for a burns unit. And then we have another 2 wards which are for ulcers, wounds, but we do see quite a large number of wounds as well. So we have there's a general plastic surgery where we do with the various things like cleft lip palates, road traffic accidents, various kinds of cancers, keloids, and those kind of problems, and then we have the burns. And so in all, it's about 70 beds in total. We have 2 theater suites where we undertake surgery. We have a recovery ward, and then we have an outpatient area, which is also quite small in terms of looking at our needs. So we're looking at expanding. So when a new facility is opened, it will have a bigger outpatient area with about 5 consulting rooms, so that we can give more quality care to the patients. Well, as it were, because of the number of patients we see, sometimes we have to see maybe 2 or 3 patients in the same room at the same time, and it's not the best. So that's what we. Because on the average, you see between 60 and 70 outpatients a day. Between 60 and 80 patients every day. Yes. Wow, that's a lot. Yes. Okay, Kwame will tell us about why he wants to run, and then I want you to tell us typically what happens in your units. But Kwame, why do you want to run?
Well, I want to run because I remember years ago I was in secondary school. I went to Accra Academy anyway. And one of the first few things I learned was this Latin expression that said, non sibi sed alis, not for ourselves but for others. And I had the privilege of actually attending a talk by Dr. Mpama a while ago, and he was talking about burns and the menace and how many people are actually affected all the time. And I spoke to him directly after the talk, and I said, I've got this project coming up where I want to just do an awareness run and stop in different towns and villages along the way and just talk to people, you know, engage them. One of the skills I have is engagement skills. I travel across the world to do that. So I thought I would take 2 weeks out of my life and talk to people, you know. And the truth is, the more people know about prevention, the less work doctor and his team have to do. And obviously, we always complain about the fact that we don't have the skills, we don't have the resources to look after all our patients. So at least if we reduce the numbers, hopefully it should be better for all of us.
That's a good cause, by the way.
Yes, I think it's a very worthy cause, because that's been one of the things I've been trumpeting all these years, and it's because more than 80% of burns are preventable. So when you see a burn, it means that there was some level of carelessness, or somebody didn't take the necessary precautions. That's why a burn happens. So these are largely preventable situations. And also looking at our environment where resources are a big challenge, because if you have any patient who comes up with a big burn, the amount of resources they are going to expend, and the fact that if you get a very severe burn, no matter how much plastic surgery is done on your body, you're never going to really become the same as you were before. So it's a no-brainer that we should look at prevention very seriously. Last year, this country had a rude awakening when we had this June 3rd disaster. And after that, there was some flurry of activity trying to talk about burns prevention and filling stations and all those things. But after the initial, flurry of activity, it's all just died down, and everybody's business is going back to business as usual. And as we speak, daily, we have family members, people coming in with burns from some of these, petroleum and gas products, and it's because people don't really know how to handle these, hazards, with the appropriate amount of care and caution. So the public education is really, really vital, because we don't need to expend resources on things that are largely preventable.
Sure. Talk about the June 3 disaster. Do you still have some of the patients?
Yes, we still do have some of the patients who are coming in for rehab. At the moment, not all of them have been discharged from the hospital, but then there are some that have residual problems. Because after a burn, people have issues with scarring and other kinds of deformities, etc. So some of them have come in. Some of them, will need some more surgery along the line, etc. So we are taking care of those ones.
So I asked about a typical day at your facility. How does it look like on a Tuesday morning, for instance?
Let's say on a Tuesday morning, like say today, what will happen is that we have several things running in parallel, because we've broken the unit down into about 3 teams, led by the sort of senior consultants, Dr. Page, Dr. Lane, and myself. So we have other doctors, other specialists, and other trainee doctors who are working with us. And so we, on Tuesday, typically, there's outpatient clinic running. There's also a teaching ward round. What we do is that we do a major ward round on the patients, and then we undertake teaching, because our place is also a teaching facility. And then we also we're on call every day. So we take in emergencies as and when they come in. So there's a team on call who will be taking care of the emergencies. So in the morning, we meet and we'll discuss the cases that have come in overnight, or if there are any challenges, and then we do some teaching, some do outpatient work, then maybe theater work to do as well. So each day has, we have a sort of general plan, but how the day actually pans out depends on what is thrown at us.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And we have other people coming from outside Ghana to the facility as well?
Yes, definitely, yes. We have in terms of clients, we do see patients from within the sub-region, so from our neighboring countries, and from even some people from even Eastern Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, other countries. They visit the facility because the plastic surgery manpower is actually not quite common, and some of these countries actually don't even have a single plastic surgeon in their country. So in fact, at the moment, we have a Sierra Leonean doctor who's been trained as a reconstructive plastic surgeon so that he go back to his country to offer service. So we do that. So there are trainees also from Nigeria who are in the center learning the arts and the skill of plastic surgery.
Sure. Now let's talk about the issues that people present to the facility. The reason we want to hammer on this education of prevention.
Yes, in terms of the issues that we do a wide range of issues. So talking from wounds, just ulcers, or what in general terms we call sores. We have a lot of high incidence of diabetes, sickle cell, and injuries, in our environment. So most of the time, some of these people are left with these large wounds on their legs, which require specialist treatment. And like the biblical term Lazarus, nobody wants to go near them. So they tend to be poor, tend to be neglected, and so we sort of have to deal with some of these people, and it's quite a bit of a challenge because in terms of most of these people are there because they don't have the necessary resources, and they've been neglected by their families, etc. So it's quite a bit of a challenge for us to deal with some of these people. Sometimes we've had to take some of them in and just treat them for free because sometimes they end up camping around our our doorsteps, that sort of thing. So those are, and then we deal with things like keloids. We deal with cleft lip and cleft palate deformities. People are born with abnormalities of their hands and feet or various parts of the body. When they are not formed properly, we deal with them. We deal with various kinds of cancers, skin cancers, and other types of cancers when they become advanced, such that if the cancer is to be removed, that body part has to be reconstructed. We also play that role as well. We deal with the burns and then the sequelae of burns, that is the consequences of burns. So like if a child gets burned, for instance, as they grow up, their skin is not able to stretch to accommodate their growth. So you find that as they grow, so that their hands, they can't open their palms, or they can't stretch their elbows or raise their shoulders, etc. Or so that their legs are stuck together. So we deal with some of those consequences of burns, and those are the ones that we don't see, because they are, as I said, they are most of the people people who are marginalized in society, so they are not in our faces, as it were. But there are a large number of people like that who have some of these issues. Of course, then we deal with things like elephantiasis, which is lymphedema, where the limbs get very, very swollen.
You do all that?
Yeah, we do all that. So, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we do so many different conditions, but these are, so to say, the commonest ones that we deal with.
Sure.
And so there's the term is quite strange in terms of the number of things that we have to do. But there are other things that we want to do, but it's just that we're trying to build our manpower levels up a bit so that we can also branch into some of those areas, because there are things that we want to offer, like when women have surgery for breast cancer. Our women tend to present late, or they are afraid of coming to hospital for breast cancer because they are afraid that when they come to hospital, their breasts are going to move and they are going to be left deformed for the rest of their lives. But actually, there's a branch of plastic surgery that deals with reconstructing the breast, so that when the woman has the breast removed, it can be reconstructed. So then that sort of removes that sort of fear that the woman enable them to present early. Where I trained, for instance, about 70% of the breast cancer cases are reconstructed immediately. As soon as once your breast, you wake up with a new breast. So. But
we don't do that here.
We don't do that here because of manpower, logistic, and financial constraints. But these are some of the services that as in the future, we would like to be able to offer to the Ghanaian public. So we are at the moment building manpower in those areas, trying to make sure that this will be able to, because it's something that needs a dedicated service. And also we were looking at also building the manpower of our nurses, for instance, because plastic surgery and breast nursing is a nursing specialty in itself, but we don't have such a training program in place in the country at the moment. So what we've done is that we've started discussions with the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health training institutions to initiate a program, and we have got some pledges of support from our colleagues in the UK, in Glasgow specifically, and who will be coming down to help us. So we already started the curriculum development process, and we're taking it forward so that we can have an actual program in place in the country. So.
And I thought we're only going to talk about burns. It's good to know all the things that you have to. But Kwame, have you been burnt before?
Well, I think all of us have an experience of being burnt. But I have a very personal experience. My mom as doctor was saying, that when kids get burnt, the skin fails to stretch as they grow. My mom was severely burnt when she was a kid, around 12, 13. And what that meant was that I grew up with just one breast. Basically, my mom didn't have the other one because it was completely gone. So for me, I mean, it was a scary thought just looking at her sometimes as a kid. The skin wasn't even. And those are the things that can actually affect you, you know. So if you ask me my personal interest in this charitable cause, is because I've seen it firsthand. I know a lot of people who have got their children burned, you know, in terrible circumstances. So, and ultimately, what I want to say, Mama V, is that what Doctor and his team does every day, and the kids and the people going through these horrible experiences, does not compare to what I would like to do for 2 weeks of my life, just to create awareness.
I like you keep encouraging yourself. That's nice.
Thank you.
And hopefully I'll be able to join you on the last lap. Okay, but Doc, what are some of the things that people present that you think are preventable?
Yes, as I said, most of the burns that we see are largely preventable. And if you look at in terms of the causes of burns, for instance, for the children, majority of the kids, it's from poor handling of hot liquids. So hot water, hot soup, hot stew, etc. You know, and the kitchen is the commonest place where these injuries occur, followed by the bathroom. And you realize that for many of the traditional homes, there's no demarcation between the kitchen and the play area. So whilst cooking is going on, children are running around, chasing each other, etc. And then somebody trips and then falls into soup and that sort of thing. So these are things that, as the caregivers of these kids, can make sure the place is properly demarcated. And when you are cooking, don't let the children come and playing around in the area. So this is just having that extra sense, you know, duty or to take those sort of precautions. Secondly, when we are transporting hot liquid, especially hot water, for instance, from, let's say, we usually prepare it in the bathroom, in the kitchen to the bathroom, and then we carry it to the bathroom in the boiling state. But you don't need to, I mean, that is quite dangerous.
So rather bring the bucket to the
kitchen.
Kitchen.
Bring the cold water to the kitchen and dilute it there, so that when you're transporting the water to the bathroom, it's ready for bathing. So in case there's any spillage, it doesn't hurt anybody. And routine handling of some of these electrical gadgets in the homes, because we do get a lot of electrical injuries as well. Okay. And then one of the emerging sort of hazards, which accounts for a significant proportion of the admissions that we see, are gas. You know, a lot of people are now using gas cylinders, but they don't know even how to sight them. But gas cylinders are not supposed to be located indoors. They're supposed to be outdoors where there's free circulation. Most people locate these cylinders indoors. When the valves are leaking, they need to be replaced. You find people who put stones, you know, on the, you know, and all these are quite dangerous. The tubes need to be changed every now and again, and you know, there's the tubings. And then when you are even going to put the gas on, if you detect that there's a smell of the gas, you need to stop and check if there's any leak, and then open the windows, let it dissipate before you do that. Because sometimes even when you enter your room and you smell gas, even switching on the light source can trigger an explosion. Because when you know, any amount of gas that escapes from the cylinder, it expands about 250 times the original volume. So you can see how quickly it can fill up the space in the room when it leaks. And so if the air is saturated with leaked gas, for instance, and it just needs a little spark, and then there's an explosion. And we've seen many families you know, get themselves burnt in this way. But at the moment, as I speak, 35% of our admissions are from gas explosions, and that also accounts for 44% of the deaths that we see in our units are from gas explosions. So you can see that that's quite a big statistic. And as we, you know, I'm not saying that gas is a bad thing. It's a very good,
we can do without
efficient.
I couldn't do without.
I mean, it's an efficient fuel, you know, and it has advantages of, you know, saving us from deforestation and other things. But then, when we are selling the cylinder, we should make sure that, you know, the appropriate safety, you know, things are taught to the people. Because even to start, most of the cylinders are second-hand, but cylinders have expiry dates. So once this, and you can see it on the neck of the cylinder, once it's expired, there's no point why we should purchase. But we import these expired cylinders wholesale from Europe and spray them up and then sell them to our people. And so what we do is that we are giving our people little bombs to take into their homes, and then it's causing a lot of explosions. So sometimes we are not seeing it on a big scale. We've seen some on a big scale, but some on a smaller scale, we see situations where families of 5, and things are burnt, and it's something that is a regular occurrence in our sometimes even from afar, so they come walking, you just know that this person has been in a gas explosion. Apart from the external damage it causes, sometimes it can also cause damage to the internal organs as well, to the lungs, etc. And it's quite can be life-threatening when it happens that way. So these are all things that are largely preventable, and we need your support in terms of public education. So I'm very grateful. I was very gratified when Kwame walked up to me and said, "Look, I want to do this," and I was like, "Look, go for it," because we need more of such moves. We need people who are public-spirited, public-minded, like he is, to be able to draw awareness about some of these things.
But would it make a difference?
I think it would. I mean, even if what that is just touches 1 or 2 people, and for them to change their habits, I think that is worth doing. Because that's one less person that we have to deal with in terms of when the person gets into a bed. And I think that what he's doing is some that sort of one of the things that may seem innocent or may seem not so much, but then once it triggers a certain change of mindset in 1 or 2 people, that will have a ripple effect and will affect multiple segments of society.
Sure. Okay. So before you came, we started a little education on our own. We started some first aid, and I have questions on that because somebody's asking, what if it happened to your face? Because what we've been showing is if you had hot porridge or water pour on your hands, what you can do immediately. Yes. We'll come back. I'll come to you with the first aid. But Kwame, let us understand exactly what you intend to do.
Well, when you listen to doctor and all the advice is given, all the things that we don't do properly, I would just be a vehicle for doctor and his team. Where they can be, I will be. So the message is given out, I will just give the same message in a very easy way for local communities. So this is what's going to happen. Every day, I'll run for about 20 kilometers every day, from a town to a different town.
Okay.
And when I get there, I will stop. And I'll go into the local schools, meet local people, ask them questions about burns and fire safety, and then we find ways of educating them so that they can be aware of it.
Okay.
It's a very simple objective for me. And as Doctor is saying, I'm aiming to speak to at least 2,000 people over the 2 weeks that I'm actually running. If 10%, if 5% of these people remember what we talked about and tried at least one preventive measure, that is success.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. So you're going with a team?
Yes, I've got most of the run will be done by myself, but I've got people who are willing to join me on different legs of it. I know that somebody sat here who has promised me that she will try and do a leg of it, which I'm not holding her accountable for. But I think it's momentum.
Yes.
I've got people who are willing to do the first leg with me.
Okay.
And that's I'm really grateful for bringing myself and Doctor on the show this morning. The more we talk about it, the more people will be interested. I've never been on Twitter, but this week I've got myself a Twitter handle, and people are following what we're doing.
Okay.
It's a momentum. Everything is a social change, and you've got to start somehow.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this last weekend, that there's so much trouble. You listen to the news every morning, newspaper review, and there's always problems. Somebody has done something. Something is not going properly. And it's about time that, somebody wants to do something positive. And that is my contribution. It will not change the country, but it will start something. And that's the purpose.
I'll come back to
my team and I will be in the water region on outreach during your run, so we'll find a way of joining you for. Although maybe I can run only 1 kilometer out. We'll try and join you.
Okay, so I'll come back to you with what you want the people along the routes that you will be passing, because you run us through the places that you'll be. What do you want them to do, and when they see you or see any of your colleagues? But Doc, let's talk about first aid. What do you do immediately?
Yes, for most burns, whether it's flame or from hot liquid or from a chemical, the best first aid is ordinary water. So just pour a lot of water over the burn, cool the burn. Because what you want to do is that there's either a chemical acting on the skin, or there's heat energy acting on the skin, and you want to reduce the amount of the heat energy that gets transferred to the skin, because that's what causes the damage. So pour a lot of water on the skin. But when it comes to electricity, then you have to use a different tactic, because when it comes to electricity and somebody gets injured by electricity, you have to make sure that you get the power switched off first before you attempt to rescue the person. Otherwise, you become a victim yourself, especially if you are using wet hands or using something that is itself a conductor. Then you go into, so you need to switch off first. But then for most of these burns from either dry heat or wet heat, cooling the burn with water is a first. And for the chemical, you need to just keep on running water over the area, affected area, for at least 15 to 30 minutes. Or usually I would advise that keep doing it till the burning sensation stops, because once you still have the burning sensation, it means that the chemical is still active. And if you try to rush to hospital, as you're on your way, it's still causing more damage. And by the time you get to hospital, then the damage is already done, and there's not much that can be done. So you just water, ordinary water is best. People use all sorts of things. Those things have not been shown to work at all. In fact, sometimes they rather compound the situation. People are using raw eggs and brake fluid and all sorts of things, corn dough, cassava dough, all sorts of things, toothpaste, all those things don't help. So just ordinary water, and then cover it with a clean cloth or clean plastic sheet, and then get to the nearest hospital for assistance.
Okay, so that's this is exactly what we showed. I think what we showed was talking about 10 minutes at least.
Yes,
okay.
At least 10, yes.
And then after you do this, you go to the hospital?
Yes, go to the hospital.
Okay, I think there's a question about the face. And my WhatsApp number is 056800,000. Maunyo from Medina says, can the same aid be applied if the burn is in the face?
Yes. As for the cooling, it's universal. So wherever the burn is, cool it. So the water applies universally. The only thing is that when it comes to the face, when you come to hospital, we use some antiseptic ointments to apply on the burn to prevent it from getting infected. But when it comes to the face, we use something slightly different. We use sterile liquid paraffin, or there are some bland solutions that we use, because the face is a part of the body that has got a very rich blood supply, and it tends to heal on its own if just given the right environment. So, and some of the dressing materials that are used on other parts of the body sometimes leave some stains within the skin. So since it's the face, we tend to use a slightly different material. That's why you need to see the expert to prescribe
that you couldn't do on your own?
No, so I think that instead of first aid, just cool the burn with water, and then get to hospital and let them do the appropriate thing for you. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, Mamavi. Please ask Kwame if he's available to embark on a similar course for me on raising awareness on nutrition-related child disability. At what fee? From Ronald.
Another contract.
Okay, more messages. This one says, in fact, what I heard is not different from my experience at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Okay, I want to believe that this is in relation, this will be with NHIS. I think so, so I'll come back to it later. This is Marcos Mate from Aplao, says, just want to say that let's pray for Ghana. Okay, this is on another subject that we're not talking about right now. Okay, somebody's asking where's Roland. Roland has an emergency today, so he couldn't be here. This one, okay, so this is Dr. Abedi Kwadaso, aka Big Joe Shoes. I'll come back to exactly the things that you raise. So a lot of people talking about Prophet TB Joshua today as well, even on our WhatsApp platform. But if you've got a banned question from my doctor and my friend Kwame here, who's doing the running, please send me on 0560-800,000. Still ahead though, we've got Derek Ekosam roving on cholera. Not sure exactly where he is, but he will tell us when we put him through. This is the AM show. So in wrapping up, Kwame, where exactly would you be?
Well, I think we've got 13 different stops to get to Accra or the Kolibo Hospital on the 9th of May. But most people will not remember them now, so I won't bore them with it. I think the first key thing is that we start on Sunday morning at the Aflao border post, and then we arrive in Agbozume
Okay.
So it will take us about 3 hours slow running, so everybody can take part. And then it's a Sunday, so there's a local church that we've actually agreed to go into and then engage people there. And the very next day, we're continuing on the road. We're going to Apipa, just to talk to the people again. So, and then of course, every day on our Twitter handle, guys, please follow me because this is new for me. It's Crane Appeal on Twitter, and we tell you where we are every day, what we're doing. We share pictures on our Facebook and stuff. So please join us and support this, because it's not me you're supporting Doctor and his team, people who are struggling, people who are yet to go through that experience, so we prevent that from happening.
Sure. Okay. So any last minute tips that you want to share with us?
Yes, I said I would still like to reiterate the point about burn prevention and making sure that we do the appropriate thing when we tend to get burns. And then I also like to appeal to the general public to support what Kwame is doing, because it's a very worthy cause and it's something that has been neglected. You read some statistics that worldwide we have about 300,000 deaths from burns every year. And if you look at malaria also accounts for about 600,000 to 700,000 deaths every year. But if you look at the amount of attention we pay to malaria prevention and the amount of investment we make into malaria treatment, when you compare it to burns, we're really doing nothing about burns. Most people think it's not a problem, but indeed it is a problem. In fact, the WHO has recognized this recently and is trying to make amends, because most of the time we are in a part of the world, we think our only problem is infectious diseases, but we have a lot of some of these conditions that are very prevalent, but it's because nobody is highlighting it, or NGO money is not being thrown at it, so nobody is interested in really highlighting. So it's very important that what Kwame is doing, it's quite important, because he's looking at a very important condition that is causing significant morbidity and mortality in our country, but which is being neglected.
Sure.
So I'd like to encourage the general public to support, and then in your own small way, whether in your school, in your home, in your church, try and educate your people about burn prevention, because it's very, very important.
What are your most pressing needs as a department?
One of the, I'll talk about patients. One of the pressing needs is healthcare financing, because when somebody gets burns, for instance, severely burns, they will spend up between 30 to 50,000 Ghana cedis on their treatment. And how many patients can be able to afford that? Now, NHIS will spend about 1,500 cedis on the patient. So now who makes up for that?
Out of that amount.
Out of that amount, exactly. So who makes up for that gap? So it is a big challenge for our patients. In fact, there's a saying that every cloud has a silver lining. Last year, because of the June 3rd disaster, we had quite an outpouring of support, etc. So even after we finished treating the June 3rd patients, we still have some stuff left over that we're using to treat some of these other patients. That's what has sort of saved. So you can see, if you look at data, you can see that our mortality rate just dropped because we're getting more. But then when these items are virtually running out, so when they run out, what do we do next? So it is an ongoing challenge. Every day you face people who come in, they are severely burnt, they are weakest moment in their lives, and yet still you don't have the resources to as to treat them, and what do you do as a that's one of the very difficult situations that we are put in on a daily basis. Not be able to treat somebody because they don't have the resources. And I think as a country we need to look at this thing holistically, look at prevention, as I said, and then also look at healthcare financing in general. It's one of the biggest challenges of our time.
Yesterday, one of my colleagues, Kwetenate, reported on sterilization issues at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. So do you have a similar challenge at your unit?
Yes, fortunately my unit has got its own sterilization machine, so that's what we use. Interestingly, we also had a fault with our machine, but we made alternate arrangements. So we've been sterilizing our staff at Atomic Energy. So we've not had to interrupt the service.
Okay.
But then there's a part that we needed that was to be ordered. So the guy who services the machines has promised that you'll be come and sort out today.
Yeah.
So although we have an issue, it's not interrupted our service at all.
Okay. So my director wants me to show you this new unit and ask you again, when are you moving there? So Fred, since you want me to
this is the old unit.
Fred, this is the old unit, he says. Please show us the new one. When are you moving?
Like I said, the approval has just been given by the Central Tender Board. So the Ministry of Affairs award, the process of awarding the contract. So we're hoping that once it's awarded within the next week or two, work will start. And we're hoping that by the third quarter of this year, we should be able to.
That's it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
So this is world class? Is this?
Well, this is definitely a big step up from what you saw earlier on. But I won't say we are at world class yet, because for a burn unit, you need other logistics, even things like the manpower levels, staffing levels, and all those. So these are things that we are working on aggressively with the ministry to try and beef up the sense of the different cadres of staff, because you don't just need surgeons, because at the moment we are producing quite a number of surgeons. So that will soon become a lesser problem. But other staff like anesthetists, like physiotherapists, like intensive care specialists, all those people will come into the fore when we move into this. So we are trying to, as it were, raise some more funds to get people ready, so that when the facilities move, we'll have the full complement of staff to run it at the maximum efficiency.
Okay, we here. We wait and see what happens.
So we still need your support.
Sure. This is the last one for you, Kwame. Somebody's asking you to say cool water instead of just saying water. And he says, thanks so much for the education on it, from Laka in Tamale. I'm not sure what this is in relation.
I don't know.
But this one,
I think it's talking about first aid, but you don't necessarily need ice water. Because if you use just ice water to cool a burn, you either the temperature swings, rather actually cause more damage. You don't need ice water,
just the normal water.
No, just normal water.
Okay,
yes.
all right. This one says, ask Doc if a solution of salts or salt treats burns from hot items, because that is what my mom uses.
The thing is that people have used some of these, like using salts, water, but the thing is that when you have a burn, what you do within the first 30 seconds actually has an impact on the extent of burn, how deep the burn goes. So instead of looking around for salt, just get the water and pour it on, and you have people with anecdotal stories about, I had this and I used what do you call it, this, salt water, or I used this other thing and it worked. Most of the times, because the burn wasn't that deep to begin with, but if you have a really deep burn, those things you find out they are very, very ineffective. They rather will compound things. Okay.
So here's the last one that I'll read. It says, it's one area I would also be willing to participate, but I'm in school at the moment. In my teaching, I will do well to always educate my students. Thanks to Doc and my good friend. I've enjoyed the show. My regards to you too. Thank you so much for watching and for opening up, to even want to participate. I'd like to say thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kwame. Thanks, Doc, for being here.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
I'll see you after the run, man.
Yes. What do you mean after the run?
No. Last lap. All right, let's join Derek Akolsam now. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly has asked all metropolitan assemblies to intensify education to forestall cholera. In our roving report for today, Derek Akolsam has been finding out from the general public what they will do to prevent the outbreak of the disease.
It's a beautiful Tuesday morning and it's time to rove on the AM show. Today, we are looking at a pertinent issue. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly is asking the Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies to intensify education to forestall the outbreak of cholera. It boils down to the people. We want to speak to them. We want to ask them what they are doing in their own small way to prevent the outbreak of such a disease.
In my environment, I used to tell my friends that when they suppose they sweep around or when they clean every refuse, they must make sure that they burn it or they send it to the refuse dump. But when they leave it out there and it rains, it's carried to the gutters, thereby causing chokes, and before you realize there'll be an outbreak of cholera and death.
But in the course of burning your rubbish, the wind could blow and then it would sweep the ashes away to some other places. Have you thought about that?
We have a container, a small container as a barrier. They'll put it inside. then we drill holes around it. So when you burn it, you don't see the ashes flying away.
Apart from sweeping your place and burning your rubbish, what other things do you do? So especially as regards the food you eat, usually there's the warning that you don't have to eat cold food. Do you think about that as well?
Yeah, me mostly what I just do is that my foods are always warmed up, because when it's cold and the flies run over it, before you realize that the cockroach, the flies. So what I do, every day my food is warm.
I think the most important thing to do right now is to keep our environment clean, most especially our gutters, because that's where the disease really comes from. Most of the gutters here in Accra is full of trash, and we hardly see Saturday's cleanup in most of them. Like the area I'm staying at, North Carnation, there are some places that if you go there right now, the gutters there is very, very dirty, and passers-by get really sick of the disease, get contracted of those diseases.
But who puts the trash in the gutter? It's us, right?
Yes, it's us. And I think also one of the preventive measures we should take is avoiding train trash inside our gutters. I think that's the best alternative you can go for.
Now, apart from that, usually they speak about meals as well. They talk about cooking your own meals, eating hot food. Have you also thought about that?
Yeah, it's also a possible means of preventing cholera, making sure that the meal you are taking in is at least hot. I'm a student of University of African University. 2 years ago, some students of the Development Communication did a campaign on cholera. So they posted some of the things, Champions, some other restaurants that keep it warm. So I think it's one of the best means of us preventing cholera by eating our food warm.
You are a station master here. Usually the complaint is that our lorry stations are not that clean, and this is where people usually converge to take vehicles. They also come here, alight and all that. How are you putting your station in shape to prevent a possible outbreak?
It's about me and you and all the people in the community, because if you be taking care of those things, I'm not sure someone will have any disease. But for secondary, what is my problem is the government to take care of the Metropolitan Assembly or the AMA people, those who used to sweep, because they are the main target. And if the government is taking care of them, I'm sure that anywhere will be clean.
Apart from the rubbish and its related issues, the other things personally you need to look at, like the food you eat and everything. You have people who sell here. Do you ensure that every time the food they sell to the public is warm?
If you what about the system, even what the gutter, the way I choke, the flies will come from the gutter and they will come to the food. Later you go and buy. Sometimes you can go, maybe if the food is hot. Still, if you get the virus, you get it. Yeah.
What do you tell those who sell on your plot?
Yeah, when you know, sometimes when you go and tell someone, when you tell someone to do the right thing, the person thinks that maybe you are doing too or you are doing krife. But at the end of the day, he's the one who is going to fall sick, and I also fell sick.
It's a clarion call from him as a station master to those who sell on his plot that they always keep the environment steady. They sell food that is hot to the passengers who patronize the station. He's also pleading that those who sweep the environment, they also come to do that on a regular basis instead of doing that intermittently. The other people I spoke to have also pledged to support the call in one way or the other to ensure that we don't face a possible outbreak of cholera, and that even if we do, the situation can be contained. This has been your roving report for today. My name is Derek. I call Sam.